I woke up on the kitchen floor with my wrists bound by extension cords and the back door wide open while the house lights were all on at once. The refrigerator door was hanging open and the security alarm panel had been ripped off the wall and dropped beside my head. My phone was face down in a puddle of water, and the screen kept lighting up with failed passcode attempts. I dragged myself upright and realized every lock I had engaged before bed was now unlocked from the inside. The smell of cleaning chemicals filled the air, even though I never owned any that strong. I stumbled to the hallway and saw furniture pulled away from the walls, as if someone had been searching for wiring. The attic ladder was down, and muddy footprints led directly beneath it. I closed the ladder with shaking hands and noticed the attic lock had been snapped clean off. The bathroom mirror had words written in toothpaste, repeating my name again and again. I scrubbed it away and discovered fresh scratches underneath the glass surface. Blood was smeared along the sink edge in a pattern that looked deliberate rather than accidental. I wrapped my wrists and tried to remember how I ended up on the floor without success. The front door deadbolt was open, but the door itself had not been forced. Every window latch was still intact and secured. The realization settled slowly that whatever happened never needed to break in. I moved room to room, counting knives and tools, and found several missing. The spare bedroom mattress was flipped, and the box spring had been sliced open. A camera I used to monitor my dog was aimed directly at the bed and still recording. I played back the footage and saw myself standing there at 3 in the morning, holding a hammer. I watched myself dismantle the alarm system with practiced movements I did not recognize. The video showed me pausing to listen to something not captured on audio. I turned the sound all the way up and heard only my breathing. I watched myself smile at nothing and drag the mattress aside. I shut the footage off when I saw myself look straight into the lens. That was the moment I knew the locked doors were never meant to keep something out. I sat on the bed, trying to recall the night before, and the memory began earlier than I expected. It started with the decision to install extra locks after weeks of unexplained disturbances. It started with sounds that followed a pattern I refused to acknowledge. It started with sleep that never felt empty. It started with the feeling of being observed without evidence. It started with notes I did not remember writing. It started with bruises that appeared in places I could not reach. It started with neighbors mentioning lights turning on when I was away. It started when I began to fear my own routines. It started when I began locking doors from habit rather than safety. It started when I began recording myself at night to prove nothing was wrong. The first recording showed me sitting upright in bed at exactly 2:12 every night. I never opened my eyes, but my head turned toward the closet each time. The second night, I stood up and walked into the hallway for 20 minutes before returning. The third night, I remained standing at the foot of the stairs, completely still. On the fourth night, I unplugged the camera before leaving the room. That morning, the camera was back on the shelf, aimed correctly. I reviewed the daytime footage and saw nothing unusual. I checked carbon monoxide levels and replaced detectors, even though they were fine. I removed all sharp objects from the house and locked them in my car. The next night, I used tools from the garage I forgot were there. I woke with dirt under my nails and the attic ladder lowered. I found mud tracked through the ceiling insulation. I installed more locks and placed chairs under door handles. I set alarms on my phone to wake me every hour. Each alarm was disabled without notification. I drank coffee until dawn and still lost time. The recordings showed me calmly resetting alarms after turning them off. I moved my car keys to a safe and watched myself retrieve them without searching. I followed muddy footprints to the basement door that I always kept sealed. The seal was broken from the inside. Inside the basement, I found a space cleared behind storage boxes. There was a chair bolted to the floor and restraints attached neatly. The bolts were new and the concrete dust was fresh. I realized the chemicals came from industrial cleaners stored at my workplace. I checked my trunk and found them arranged carefully. I also found a change of clothes stained and folded. I destroyed the basement setup and slept in my living room with lights on. The recording showed me turning every light off one by one. It showed me standing in the dark, facing the camera. It showed me speaking softly, though the audio captured nothing. It showed me writing notes and hiding them. I found those notes later tucked inside books I never read. They contained instructions written in my handwriting. They detailed where to stand and what to move. They detailed how to avoid waking myself. The last note said the locks were necessary, but insufficient. It said the danger understood the house better than I did. It said the danger was patient. It said the danger practiced. It said the danger was already trained. It said the danger learned from watching me. It said the danger lived where the keys were kept. It said the danger would finish preparing soon. I decided to stay awake and placed every recording device I owned in the living room facing me. I taped my wrists lightly to the chair so circulation was not blocked, but movement would be noticeable. I locked every door again and photographed each lock as proof. I placed the keys in a sealed container and set it on the table in front of me. I wrote the time on my arm with a marker. I sat there until my eyes burned and the clocks moved forward without my consent. When I checked the photos, the locks were unchanged. The container was open and the keys were warm. The marker writing on my arm had been washed away and replaced with a different time. The cameras were still recording and none had been turned off. The footage showed me standing up calmly and removing the tape. It showed me unlocking the container with a steady hand. It showed me testing each door methodically. It showed me returning the keys exactly where they started. It showed me sitting back down and reapplying the tape tighter than before. It showed me wiping my arm clean and rewriting the time. It showed me smiling briefly at the cameras. I found new notes hidden behind picture frames. They listed progress updates in dated entries. They referenced training sessions and improvements. They referenced mistakes corrected over time. They referenced endurance and compliance. They referenced isolation as an advantage. They referenced the house as a controlled environment. They referenced me as both asset and obstacle. I tore the notes apart and burned them in the sink. The ashes clogged the drain in a shape that looked intentional. I tried sleeping outside in my car and woke up back inside. The car keys were still in the house. The driveway camera showed the car never moved. I realized the recordings never showed hesitation. I realized the movements were rehearsed. I realized the locks were part of the routine. I realized the preparation was nearly complete. I realized the house was not the problem. I followed the notes I had missed and found a final instruction taped inside the breaker box. It stated that completion required acknowledgement. It stated that denial caused repetition. It stated that resistance delayed, but never stopped the process. I reviewed every recording from the beginning without skipping. I noticed the calm efficiency never changed. I noticed the actions improved each night. I noticed the body learned without memory. I noticed the behavior matched conditioning. I noticed the purpose became clearer with time. The purpose was containment rather than escape. The purpose was control rather than intrusion. The purpose was ensuring silence. I understood why restraints were built. I understood why doors were tested. I understood why alarms were practiced on. I understood why the house was prepared. I understood why I was prepared. The final recording showed me securing the room from the inside. It showed me checking that no one else was present. It showed me sitting in the chair willingly. It showed me tightening the restraints with precision. It showed me turning off the lights. It showed me waiting. The clear truth landed without confusion or metaphor. There was no external presence. There was no break in reality. There was no outside threat. The system was built to protect others from what happens when I sleep. The locks were not defensive. The locks were procedural. I locked every door because I was trained to. It came from within because it was me operating without permission. I disabled the cameras and removed the restraints before dawn. I moved out that morning and never slept alone again. I live under supervision by choice now. This is the last time I will deny what the recordings proved.